Hey everyone, this is Ray Carcillo, and today we are looking at Dead Rising 2 Case West, exclusively for the Xbox 360. Taking place immediately after the events of Dead Rising 2, Case West opens up with Chuck Greene fighting off a now zombified TK, and just when it looks like Chuck is about to succumb, a tall, baseball bat-wielding gentleman steps in and sends TK flying. As Chuck gets his bearings, we see that it is the hero of Dead Rising 1, Frank West, that has saved Chuck. A bit more grizzled after his experiences of the past 5 years and countless zombrex injections to stave off his own zombie infection, Frank is a welcome sight for Chuck, who is clearly going to be a goner. After introductions are made, Frank reveals he was following a lead and was going to pick up Rebecca Chang when on the way he saw Chuck struggle. It is then that Chuck reveals the unfortunate news that Rebecca is dead. Frank, dejected, tells Chuck he is headed to a phenotrans facility to still follow up on his lead. Chuck then tells Frank he is coming with him because he lost the evidence that would prove his innocence behind the Fortune City incident. It is then that these unlikeliest of partners decide to team up and begin infiltrating the facility, as their banter is reminiscent of an Abbott and Costello movie while they bumble along through ventilation ducts. Once inside, and after fighting through a horde of zombies who were released from experiment holding pens, Frank gets in touch with his contact, and the two begin trying to fight their way through security guards, zombie herders, and the zombies themselves as they look for evidence that will take down Phenotrans once and for all and clear Chuck's name. Many people were curious as to when Case West would be released, since it was hinted at around the same time Dead Rising 2, the main game, was revealed. Clearly, it was farther along than was let on, as there are a few plot holes that you immediately notice upon the opening of this game. Most notably, where is Chuck's daughter Katie and Stacy from the end of Dead Rising 2, and why is Chuck wrestling around with zombie TK at this point? Not to mention it never explains how Chuck lost his evidence. These plot holes aside, Case West actually follows the Dead Rising series rather well, as a few surprises will pop up that will help forward the series and put it on track for a thrilling third game. And of course, you don't really need that much of an excuse to just go zombie bashing in the desert. The graphics for Case West are just as good as the main game, and the voice acting is great as well, as Peter Fleming returns as Chuck and TJ Rotolo returns to reprise his role as Frank. The banter between the two is absolutely hysterical and gives this Dead Rising a much lighter feel to it right from the get-go, even as you're surrounded by flesh-eating zombie hordes and being shot at by trigger-happy security guards. There really isn't much else different to Case West though if you've played all the previous Dead Rising games, aside from the fact that now they've made sure to include all features from previous games in this one. The photography challenges have returned from Dead Rising 1 since Frank is a photojournalist, and Chuck can still duct tape with the best of them as there are even more weapon combos. And what's really nice is if you don't have a main Dead Rising 2 save file on your system, you'll automatically start at level 40. And don't worry about the photography mode if you're playing as Chuck. He gets a nice little disposable camera he can use whenever he wants. Another nice thing about Case West is that there is a more clear linearity to the gameplay, so you're not just randomly running around trying to find survivors and cursing to yourself as you get the C or D ending because you just didn't know where to go. This way, you won't have to worry about replaying Case West and finding everything in order to try to get the best ending, and can just zombie bash till your heart's content. And the survivors are the smartest yet, as once you clear the zombies away from them, they'll tell you thanks and just run off on their own, since they know the best ways out of the facility. If I had to escort one more stupid redneck after another fetch quest, I may have been done with the series altogether. The competitive multiplayer from Dead Rising 2 isn't featured here because it doesn't make sense for the story, but there is a co-op mode that actually does make sense now, where you and a friend can play as Chuck and Frank. You can even have someone join in mid-game to help you fend off the flesh-eating masses. When all is said and done, if you just can't get enough zombie bashing and are looking to see Frank West back in action as Capcom begins building a bridge for a third Dead Rising, then this 4 or 5 hour zombie slaughtering romp will be 800 Microsoft points well spent.